thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Roanoke. And Father, we ask that any decisions that we contemplate or we make at a later date will be for the benefit of all. We thank you, Lord, for life. We thank you for health. And we thank you for strength. And we just ask that these things that we do will be done for the benefit of you and for those that you love and that we serve. Please pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. We can now start with the discussions for the fiscal year 25-26. And we will, I guess, follow the agenda as outlined in our notebook. So, Mr. Chalker.
In fact, Mayor Pro Tem, I will make a couple of comments here as he's approaching the podium, but just as a reminder that this is a budget workshop or a work session, so no motions or business is expected to come out of this meeting. We are streaming this on YouTube, so please make sure that your microphones are turned on when you're speaking in. We've gotten some feedback from our citizen observers, and they've expressed some difficulty hearing, so I want to make sure that the microphones are on and being talked into. And again, our department heads and their staff have worked to develop their budget requests. There are some things that are not included in this, and one we're in the middle of transitioning to a new financial software, so when you receive the balanced budget proposal, it will be in a new system, so the output will look different than what you have right now. This is done on the old system with some other things added to it. So one thing that you'll notice that is not included in here are the comprehensive salaries and benefits for each department. Those are being calculated in a separate spreadsheet, so really we want to focus on what the needs of the department are. You might have some data about previous years and the increasing cost of things, which is natural. We're always going to have more requests than we can carry. We didn't get behind overnight, and we're not going to be able to catch up all overnight. But I feel like I try to say is that if we could do a little bit better every day, and with every decision we make, we're making things better for the future. But again, the salaries are not in there, but the other departmental requests and needs are in there, and just ask that y'all listen and take it in, and then any questions that you may have, we can help address those as well. So, Mr. Chalker, I'll let you take it from here.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Our budget is essentially going to be the same as last year, with some adjustments in areas where we were running short, okay? And I'll discuss those. The 1,700 line items in each different department is a vehicle maintenance item. And so we've had to go and increase those amounts for some of these departments that, we had to transfer some money over into, or they were running a little bit shy. Also, in the 3120 line items for the tires accounts, the cost of tires have gone up quite a bit. And so some of these tires are passenger tires and some of them are big truck tires. So we've had to increase those line items as well. In our street department, 3,400 and 3430 line items, that's a maintenance item. We've had to increase that as well because of increased cost for maintenance. And last but not least, in the 7540 department, or line item in the street department, we have increased the resurfacing request to $500,000. And the reason is we've committed to spend our POW bill funding on the streets. And so this year, the POW bill allotment was $565,000. I think that's right. And so I don't think we've got the allotment for the upcoming year yet, so we're just going to plug it in at $500,000 and adjust from there. So that's pretty much the significant changes in the expense budget. And as far as capital requests, in your packet you'll see 2 pages, a full page and a little bit left on the second page of things that we're telling you that we need. And then 2 of those things we've highlighted as priorities. And the 2 priorities would be a John Deere 320P backhoe. Doesn't have to be John Deere, but that's what we priced. and also a John Deere 444G loader. And I've got pictures of both of those pieces of equipment passed down if you want to, just to see kind of what we're talking about there. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I see that here you have the sales prices. We bought it straight out, basically at one time, versus financing by paying for it each month for a certain number of months.
That's
and I
right.
also see that you have different options based upon if you were to go the lease. What would be your best recommendation?
I would probably defer that at that time to our finance department because Carmen has probably the most experience with leases. Currently, when we leased some of our other equipment, we just went for the best term in for how many months or years?
So, Larry, I know he put lease options, he put purchase options. I'm looking at like a 0% financing option is what I'm looking for, and we actually buy it outright. That way, we would own that piece of equipment. It's hard to lease a backhoe and lease a loader. I mean, it's different from like a trash truck or something like that. So I would suggest that we actually purchase it, but I would be looking at like a 0% interest type financing, if
And-
possible.
And if you're and of course, that would be the most frugal way to handle this.
Right.
And of course, then you would determine what would be the best as far as like number of months,
Yes.
okay, along
Yes.
with warranties, things of that sort.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Is the zero financing option, is that pretty standard? Is that,
I know Kubota offers it.
okay.
I haven't looked at John Deere, but I'm sure they offer it too. Right now, for some reason, not vehicles, but equipment, you can get the 0%. So,
And the John Deere, you would be basically making collaborating with our local John Deere dealer here, or would it be away from it? As far as the
definitely.
support?
Definitely try to do local, yes.
Okay.
And also, to just add to her point, the backhoe and the wheel loader that's represented there, we expect them to last a long time. We don't expect them to last 5 years or 10 years. I mean, the ones we have been here a while, so we've gotten our money's worth out of them.
I don't quite understand what you mean when you say 24-month finance payment with $1 purchase option. What is
So
that?
in some of the leases, when you get to the end of the lease, it just depends on what type of lease it is, then you can purchase that equipment for $1. So you're basically making payments on it, and then it transfers over to your title for $1 at the end of that lease. But depending on how the lease is structured, we found out, could depend on how much tax you have to pay on that through the middle of the financing.
If you lease it, is there a limit on how many hours you can use it? Is it unlimited?
That would depend on the terms of the lease. We would try to get that as unlimited. Yeah. Because we don't want to drive it so many hours a month and have to park it.
I would just like to add too that the financing options or the options you may hear about are things that we've asked our department staff to look up, like to have in mind as options, because really the need is for a backhoe and a loader, but how we get there, we've got to look at alternatives. And so we haven't made any commitments. These are just what options have been provided and available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. Today, I'll be discussing some of the increases that the Planning Department is requesting for this fiscal year's budget. The Planning and Development Department is requesting your support for some budgetary increases. I'll outline what those critical areas are and the funds that are needed, emphasizing the necessity to safeguard public safety through timely demolitions and infrastructure improvements. One of the first items you'll see within your packet is an increase in technology. As you know, our budget is fairly small compared to others, but our inspectors use tablets on a day-to-day basis to conduct inspections, to communicate with contractors and engineers and things like that. So it gives them a good opportunity to reply to them in live time, basically, versus being out on inspections and on the road and not being able to reply until they get back into the office. So it's a good option for them. We do have tablets available for them right now. However, they're very tiny and they're a little hard to see. So we're just asking for some additional funding there to support an increase in tablet size and any accessories that are necessary for those tablets. In the packet, I've kind of added a little bit of a buffer there just so that we have enough to cover any services that are required for those. The next item that I'll go over are training and education and continuing education. Continuous education is vital for maintaining professional standards and legal compliance for zoning and for building inspectors. We propose an increase from $6,000 to $6,500 to cover these essential costs. We haven't noticed a major increase in a lot of these training sessions, but we have noticed some, so that's just enough to give us a little bit more of a buffer there. A vehicle replacement, we did do this under a surplus, but this is just to kind of allocate those funds to help with the transition of that trade-in of this vehicle. For the lease with Enterprise there, we replaced a 2018 truck with a 2025 through the Enterprise fleet, and it was able to help us in the whole fleet package. So you'll see an adjustment there. Also, for operational cost, you'll see where there was an adjustment of $500 for fuel cost. As we know, everything is rising right now, so we're trying to accommodate that to make sure we have enough to support all the traveling that has to be done. You'll also see a slight update or increase in uniforms from 300 to 450. We feel like this is essential for maintaining a professional appearance so people can easily identify our inspectors when they're out in the fields, so that they know who's coming onto their property, basically. Equipment purchases, we try every year as much as possible to make sure that we have the most updated equipment, especially now since we have all of our permits online, all of our plan reviews and things like that, just to make sure that we have the most up-to-date, reliable equipment for our computers and things like that. So we are requesting a slight increase for that allocation of funds. We're also requesting some added funds for code books. Recently, the state has updated the code books for that for the year, so we would have to make sure we have at least 1 or 2 code books for each inspector to make sure that they can follow along with the new codes as once they're once they come into effect. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Also, we're requesting an estimated $5,000 for purchase of a drone. This would aid code enforcement and inspectors to capture footage in unsafe conditions. Staff is actively pursuing a remote pilot license to operate the drone safely and effectively per FAA requirements. So if we have unsafe buildings or if it's just a dangerous situation for an inspector to get up there and take a look at something, this would give them an opportunity to do that in a more safe manner. The biggest increase that I have is demolition funds. Allocation of $500,000 is being requested by the department to address the demolition of hazardous commercial structures. The strategic reduction of unsafe buildings is critical to protecting public safety and facilitating future development. $500,000 is a lot, I understand. However, just to kind of elaborate on that a little bit, there's a lot of structures that we have specifically commercial structures, under demolition order right now. However, $500,000 would not take down all of them. So it, on the grand scheme of things, it's a lot smaller amount than what it could potentially be. And then there's my last and final item was to address some shortfalls that we had throughout the year, specifically with our dues and subscriptions. Last year, we allocated about $600 to cover our yearly dues, but it actually ended up being about double that. So we're requesting an increase from $600 to $1,200 for that. Each of these budgetary adjustments is strategically aimed at sustaining and enhancing the quality of service provided by the Planning and Development Department. The requested demolition funds are particularly critical due to the associated safety risks of delayed action. Your approval of these increases is instrumental in ensuring the well-being of our community and the continuation of professional standards in our operations. We appreciate your support, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. Thank you.
Hello. I'm going to be very brief. The human resources expenditure budget has been pretty spot on this year. So with the exception of one line item, everything is the same as far as what we are requesting. If you go to my page 2, it's called employee drug screening expense, but it's actually all of the pre-employment screening items that we have to complete, and that ends in 5,400. We're asking to increase to 13,000, which is just 500 more than what we have for this current fiscal year. And that's to account for the announced rate hikes through FMRT Group. And that is the vendor that we're using to do police candidate psych evaluations. So it's a requirement. They're pretty much the only vendor throughout the state that we can utilize for that portion of their pre-employment screening. And so that should account for any extras that we may see over the next 12 months. Other than that, everything is exactly the same as our current fiscal year. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, it's not included in the requests. All of that's processed as part of our budget, and so, but the salaries and benefits per department are assigned by the employees within those departments.
Thank you.
And just as a reminder, make sure that microphones are on and when y'all are speaking.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mine is not going to be quite that brief. I'm sorry. I have a lot of buildings. So I know that you had received the packet, and in my packet, behind each of the budgets for each facility or parks are explanations and pictures. So I hope that you had time to kind of go through that. So I don't want to go back through that. But on our first page that has the Parks and Rec logo where it has additional maintenance needs, I would just kind of like to discuss that page, which sort of sums up the entire package. Most of our budgets, if there are increases in the line items, it was due to, just utilities increasing.
Okay, time out real quick. For those of you looking through your notebooks, the department presentation is behind one of the colored pages there, so they are kind of in order here. So if you have any issues following along, just raise your hand.
The first page of Parks and Recreation. I wasn't going to go through the whole packet because I gave explanations for each of the needs behind each of the budgets. Unless, if you have questions, and I'll be glad to answer them. So our top needs that we have identified in our department, you know, and we can kind of further discuss some of those, but at Rochelle Park, we have a playground that was put in over 30 years ago. It is rusted, out of date, and out of compliance with today's playground standards. This playground is in very bad condition. We are putting in pickleball courts over at Rochelle, and so we anticipate some increase in traffic and really feel like this is a great need for that park. Our next in our top 10 would be Emory Skate Park and Parking Lot. And so the city allocated $15,000 this year to go towards that. In the meantime, a citizen group has raised about $30,000, so we are asking that the city roll that 15 and add 15 so that the city can match what the citizen group has raised. In addition to that funding, we have secured the funding from Brightspeed for $15,000, and we are waiting to hear from tourism about the $5,000 grant that we had submitted. Also, Mason Price Construction is donating in-kind work to demo the area of the tennis courts and then, you know, prep it for the work that we want to do. And that is estimated at in-kind of about $20,000. So this total project would end up being about $100,000 with the city's total contribution at $30,000 for the tennis courts that would become the skate park. But we still need to address the additional tennis courts that would be remaining, and our department feels that the best use of that space would be to make additional parking. That would not really cause us to have something else to constantly maintain in that park, but also in the summertime, there are 4 T-ball or coach pitch games going on, which fills up the entire parking area at Emory, the overflow parking by the water tower, and then 9th and Cleveland Streets are both full of cars during that time. So this new parking area I have kind of estimated would be around 50 new parking spaces with an area to turn around. So we are requesting $70,000 for that parking area with a combined additional ask for this year of $95,000 to complete that project. Our next item is Rochelle bathrooms. And the restrooms at Rochelle are currently locked and not in use. The drainage system is completely needs total replacement. There are tree branches and all sorts of things that have grown up through that, and so we would like to also, if you can see from the pictures that I have provided, that it is just in really bad shape. So we would like to remove those restrooms and replace those with 2 single-stall restrooms that will be located closer to the pickleball court and hopefully the new playground that we would have. This would also help that park be completed. Sometimes we, have a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, and we try to do what we can do, but I would like to see us be able to try to complete some things so that one park looks really nice, and then we can move on to the next one so that it doesn't all look pieced together. So that's why we've kind of concentrated some on Rochelle and Emory so that we can make these parks look as good as we can for our citizens. The next item that I have would be for the Roanoke Canal Museum and Trail for us to unfreeze that position. Let me see. And that position was frozen in 2020, and we had to reduce operating hours and rely on part-time in order to handle tours, deposits, payroll, and we have not been able to participate in a lot of outreach activities to draw patrons to that facility. The Roanoke Canal Museum holds a rich history on how the city was formed, and so we just think that it is very important for the history of Roanoke Rapids to continue through that museum, and so we would like to have that open full-time. It does need a full-time person dedicated to it, but also Kirkwood Adams Community Center has been rented through T.J. Davis Recreation Center for the past several years, from the time that I left Joe Story and became assistant director, and I moved over. And T.J. Davis is one of our largest facilities, and it is very busy. It's very overwhelming for the supervisor there to try to manage Kirkwood and all of the questions and payments and all of the weekend activities along with supervising T.J. Davis. And so we wanted to combine the museum and Kirkwood Adams Community Center supervisor so that both of those facilities could be served better. T.J. Davis facilitates 25% of our total contacts, with an additional 9% of our contacts coming from Kirkwood. So that's over a third of our total contacts for our department coming through one supervisor. And so if we're combining Kirkwood and the Canal Museum, we would be able to better disperse some of the workload more equal. Also, T.J. Davis, the supervisor there, needs to focus their time on programming for our youth, promoting positive health benefits, self-esteem, sense of community, as well as helping shape them into independent and productive citizens. And we feel they can do that better if their focus is on TJ and not on Kirkwood. TJ Davis recreation software, that is something that has been needed for several years, and it would help us in the office at all of our facilities be able to serve our citizens better. There's data that shows that an average of 30% of revenue increases come from having online registrations with this software, and this software would not just be used at TJ Davis. It would be used to schedule fields, reserve shelters, sports leagues, camps, class registrations, room reservations, swimming lessons, and facility admissions. We would use it at TJ Davis, the Roanoke Canal Museum, the Aquatic Center, and then at the Senior Center also for reserving Centennial Park. Roof leaks at TJ Davis. We had some discussions in the past about trying to paint inside of TJ Davis, but we feel like we need to repair some roof leaks. When it rains heavily, there is water that comes in. We've had different contractors try to identify where the water's coming in. With it being a metal roof and being slanted, then it has been difficult for them to identify exactly where. So we have a contractor who would come in and replace all of the screws on the roof, which is about 4,000 of them. They would replace all of those and reseal the roof to try to eliminate the leaks in our roof at TJ Davis. Kirkwood Adams Community Center windows, we replaced half of them this year. We had money budgeted and we were able to replace half of those, and so we just want to complete that project and finish those. The foggy windows make it look like it's dirty, and so we want that to be inviting, especially you have people who are renting that in our community and having people come from out of town to participate in activities and events at Kirkwood, and so we need to continue with our window replacement, and this should complete that project. Painting at TJ Davis. Inside of TJ Davis, there is some beams inside of the gyms that are rusting. We do not want them to have permanent damage. Also, the lobby and the outside of the building are faded and have chipped paint. This facility was renovated in 2000, and that was 25 years ago. There have been some attempts to repaint scuffed areas and damaged areas, and they do not match. This is our largest recreation facility with our largest number of patrons coming through it each year. It also is the face of Parks and Recreation, and we would like for it to be more inviting to our patrons. Library computers is also listed. The computers at the library are 10 to 12 years old. There are 17 of those. A lot of them are for the public, and then some are for staff. And these computers freeze up and need rebooting a lot throughout the day. These people in the community really depend on the library to come in and fill out, job applications or resumes. Kids do reports there. So the computers are really used a lot by our community for, they may be looking up stuff for just general information, but a lot of times it is things that is providing a service to them. And so we highly recommend that we are able to replace the computers at the library. And then our last on the list for our top 10 is Emory Park restrooms. And we are asking to remodel those. This is, again, where we have T-ball. A lot of kids go in these restrooms. We have birthday parties, family reunions, and so forth at Emory Park on weekends. And then we will have our skate park there. So these restrooms will be used frequently, and there are rusted out areas and some damage to some walls and things. So we would like to renovate those restrooms at Emory Park. So that is our top 10. Listed under that are all of the additional requests, and like I said, there are explanations for our requests throughout the budget. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions? I have one concerning the museum in Kirkwood Adams Center. Now, this person that you are requesting would probably be housed at the Canal Museum.
Yes,
But they would take the request for use
of Kirkwood.
of Kirkwood. So who would be responsible for setting up Kirkwood?
So Kirkwood is set up through our maintenance department at this time,
Okay.
and so that would continue.
Okay.
This person would just supervise the facility. They would take the reservations. They would also manage things at the Canal Museum, but they would, there's still part-time built into that budget, so they could leave, go show people the facility and so forth. They would set up, part-time that's going to work, and then send in to our maintenance staff of when the facility needs setting up.
And in addition, that person would be responsible for creating activities and exhibits or promoting it so that people would come?
Yes, they would be for their part as far as the museum goes. They would contact schools, try to get them to come and do tours. We've done that in the past. Sometimes in the past, the Friends of the Canal have designated funding for, they've designated funding that would go towards, providing those tours, like if kids needed to be, transported and that sort of thing. And so they would work with the Canal Commission and Friends of the Canal to help promote that facility.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Autry.
Thank you.
And Chief Patrick.
Okay. Here you go.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, sorry I was late earlier. We had a late call earlier, and so we were kind of tied up for a few minutes. So
That's okay. Thank you.
I didn't want to come in here all sweaty too much if I could. Couldn't help it. So what you have now is last week when we sent our budget stuff to you all to be placed in the budget binders, I was unable to get that sent to Ms. Story at the time, so I just printed it off and give you a copy of it. Do you have an extra one there, Mr. Jackson?
Andy.
Okay.
He-
All right. So I'm gonna be brief, I guess, for the most part. As you know, we'll start with our normal everyday expenditures. You've already had that sent to you. A lot of what we have in here is basically minor increases. These are areas that we see where we're running short in certain areas, or at least forecasting to come up a little bit short through the end of the year. I'm not sure if on yours, if it was highlighted or not. I tried to highlight them so it would be easier what was increased or what was changed or whatnot. So, of course, minor increase to electric and fuel expenses. training, we did increase that by about $4,000. The reason that was is because we've got a young department. Training is our biggest resource at this point, trying to get these gentlemen trained and ready for the soon-to-be retirees that'll be leaving. And so, during our time of people coming and going so much, we lost a lot of experience. And so that stresses the point of getting them trained, even though in the last 3 or 4 months, they've been getting a lot of on-the-job training because we've been very busy with fires. Contracted services, this was an increase there too. One of the main things with that is we're going to a new system with our Knox box system. For those of you that are not familiar with that, that gives us a key. The Knox system is a key for us to be able to access buildings throughout the city. Right now we have about 70-some buildings that participate in that program. So what that means is, let's say Logan's, when it caught on fire years ago, they've got a box that's mounted permanently to the building, and the only people that have a key to it is us as the fire department. So we're able to access that box, gain entry to the building without having to wait for a key holder to get there, and to not have to tear the door down to do damage to get inside. That particular night at workforce, we were able to get in, not do any damage to the building, therefore to do any more damage than what was caused by the fire. What this new system does is it will actually track when that key is removed and when that key is put back. It's basically it helps us track when that key is used at different places, and it's just a safeguard for us to make sure that key doesn't get lost. And to remove the key from the box, you have to have a PIN number. Each fireman will have, or firefighter will have, a PIN number to remove that key, and it has to go back in the box, and it's locked, so nobody can just take that key at any point in time to be able to use it. So that's one of the one of the reasons our contracted services is going up. Or we've asked for the increase. You see a minor increase in equipment maintenance, which is about $1,000. That's where we use for repairs to any kind of the equipment, loose equipment, or such as weed eaters, lawnmowers, chainsaws, fans, anything else like that we carry on the truck or use around the building. Radio maintenance, radio upgrade. This is where we've added to try to get a spare Viper radio. In the past we're actually 3 short, but we're trying to do it in small increments, and so if we can get 1 a year, we're trying to get to the point where we're squared away with all our Viper radios. So we kind of narrowed that down to only doing it 1 a year. Apparatus or vehicle maintenance repairs, that's actually for the apparatus. So you'll see a slight increase, well, about a $3,000 increase there. Those are for the big trucks. Those are the engines, the ladders, the airship, well, what we call the airship, the equipment truck, basically, and the F-550, which is run out of Station 2. Tire expenses, about $1,000 increase there. A set of tires to go on one of these big apparatus is right at $6,000. It's I think it's like $5,600 and some change, and that's not counting the smaller vehicles. A little bit of an increase in our physicals, where they went up this year. That's where every year each firefighter receives a full physical blood work. They come to us. We don't have to send our guys out. They come right here and do them right here in-house. So we do all of that right here. That's a slight increase in that. Same thing with our fire prevention materials. Uniforms was up just a little bit, and then also dues and subscriptions. And then last but not least, as far as the operating, is our equipment line. Now that's capital equipment. That's large equipment purchases, and that ties back into the Knox box system too, because a couple of the we've already bought a few things to go with that out of this year's budget, but this will finish us out to have those boxes mounted to the apparatus to be able to hold those keys, to have them locked in. So this increase that you see in that capital outlay, that will help us achieve that. Any questions on that?
I got a question. Where are the boxes? You said the boxes are mounted on the truck.
Yeah. Well, right now the Knox box itself is mounted, and I believe you guys got one at Builder's First Choice. I know Lowe's has them, different places have them. But yes, these boxes will be mounted on the truck, and it will be a PIN number to remove that key. So you just can't go in and get the key or anything like that. There will be a PIN number that you have to put in to basically remove that key. It's just a safeguard to make sure that key doesn't, and it tracks it. And what happens too is when they pull in the building, okay, that box is hooked to Wi-Fi. So when that truck pulls back in that building, it's sending it to the cloud. So I can go in my office and I can access it and I can say, Mr. Strickland removed that key at such and such a time and return that key back to the box at such and such a time. You follow what I'm saying? So it tracks. It's an accountability for when that thing is used and when that key is used.
I got you. I was thinking it was in the station, you grabbed the key before you left.
No. We have keys. Every truck does not have them, but all of our, and I don't want to give too much information, but all of our first out trucks do, and then the fire marshal does. Part of his job when he goes out and does inspections is to make sure the key that's in that box fits that building. Because I don't know if y'all, every time a manager changes in a lot of these businesses, the key changes. And so when he goes and does the inspection, we need to make sure that that key fits that box, because it could be 2 managers down and now the key doesn't fit the box, if you understand what I'm saying. So that's part of his process that he does.
You had mentioned that you needed you were short 3 of the Viper radios. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
so
ma'am.
you're purchasing the first one, the 3.
Yes.
What
we're trying to do, yes, ma'am, is trying to divide that up so we can, instead of having to bite all the bullet at one time, basically just dividing it up a little bit and doing replacing or getting those 3 over the next 3 years. That answer your question. Any more questions about this before I get into the capital? Okay. All right. The forms that I just give you, that was our capital needs for the upcoming year, or our capital request. Before we get into any of this, one of my big requests is to fill some frozen positions that we have. Back during COVID and when everybody was in and out, leaving, we were struggling to maintain people, we were struggling to keep people. We froze 2 positions and took that funding and put it into trying to adjust salaries to keep people. During that time frame, we lost 2 positions. Now I do have some part-timers that are helping fill that right now, but those were full-time positions that were dearly missed. So that is one of the primary things that I would like to put out there to try to possibly get back, and they're in the office, they're office staff, but we're looking to try to unfreeze those and get those positions back. The next thing is a HVAC unit for upstairs at Station 1. A couple years ago, in a way of trying to save money, we went away from the normal HVAC unit that we usually have and went with a split unit upstairs. And we've got to do some modifications, and we're trying to basically go back to the original unit like it was. Also, this is a primary for us too. This is something that we really are in need of too, is a F550 cabin chassis. Right now that truck is running out of Station 2. It's a 1999 model F550. We actually got that as a donation from Dominion Energy, probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, I guess. That truck was donated to us, and we've been using it. Right now, the truck has about 205,000 miles on it. It's used daily at Station 2 to run medical calls and other calls. That truck carries an assortment of equipment from any kind of fire equipment, emergency equipment, spill containment equipment. And what our intent is to take, if we get a cabin chassis, and put the body that's on that truck on the actual cabin Chassis that we get. Miss Ms. Johnson and I have spoke earlier about, and Mr. Chalker, about possibly looking to see if this could be something we could work through the enterprise system, through the lease system as well, that may help us with getting it, and not have to come off with so much money all at once. So that's something we're continuing to look into. And then the other two items, the generators, we've continued to ask for that for Station 1, and then also for self-contained breathing apparatus. Over the past few years, we've had some that have started going out, and basically they can't find parts for them anymore. Now, we are looking to apply for a grant down the road, but that doesn't help us now. We're limited because we've gotten the grant couple years ago, and so as y'all know, a lot of times when you get those, it takes you a while to be able to go back to get something like that. So subject to any questions, that's pretty much it for me.
I guess the question I have is about the 4 self-contained breathing apparatus. So
Yes, ma'am.
you have old ones but are not really functioning
We-
properly?
Yes, which the gentleman just came yesterday. These air packs, and that's part of some of the costs with our equipment and maintenance. Every year, those things are tested by a third party, okay? Just like our fire trucks. Every year, we send those, those are sent to Rocky Mount. A third party tests that pump. That pump has to be serviced. That pump has to be tested and certified annually, okay, to make sure it can still do what it was rated to do when it was sold to us. And keep in mind, that's a lifeline for my guys fighting fire. When they go in to fight fire, that is their lifeline. If they don't get any water, then, they're in big trouble. Same way with these air masks or these SCBAs. That's their lifeline also. They're in that smoky environment, that superheated gases and whatnot. They can't breathe that. So if those air packs are not working correctly, then, they can't function. So every year we have somebody come in and service those air packs and test them every year. Now we do regular maintenance and cleaning and things like that as we do on the truck, but to be able to actually service them and test them is like anything else. You got to be licensed to do it. Plus, it kind of takes some of that liability off of us and the city because we done our part. We've got a third party to come in, and actually the gentleman was here yesterday doing ours, and I think we lost one yesterday. So they are some of the older ones that we've had that are going out.
Yeah.
And so, excuse me, that third part also, these people are abundant, similar to like they're certified and abundant.
Yes, sir.
For federal and state regulations to limit liability on us.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you all.
Chief Wiggins,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I'd like to start by just having you note a memorandum that is attached to the packet I submitted. I'm not going to read this, but it does go into detail some of the expenses or changes and increases in some of the line items. It provides more detailed explanation than what I intend to provide here, just for the sake of brevity. So there's a couple of things I would like to call your attention to just in the operational budget. First, the telephone and postage expense. It's outlined in the memorandum, but the increase in that expense is due to some required internet lines, and we issued every supervisor on each shift a city phone. Obviously, that came with an increase in operational costs. This is to ensure that in case of emergencies, we have direct lines of communication with our supervisors across the agency, so we can recall people as necessary. If you look at on page 2 of the budget document, there's a increase, a pretty good increase in the ammunition expense. What we are currently working out is a quarterly training plan for our firearms. Since I've been here, I've seen some things at the range that that need to be addressed, and training is the only way to do it. And so I've instructed the professional standards captain to come up with an annual training plan for us to address our firearms proficiency, to ensure that we are doing our part to make sure our officers are trained and can respond to the situations as necessary. Lastly, if you look at page 5 of the budget document, near the bottom on the left, you'll see under proposed new line items. Prior to my arrival, we entered into a lease agreement with Axon for body cameras and tasers, and the annual operating cost is moving from I believe our seizure funds to now the operational budget. Are there any questions on that?
You're talking about, you're speaking of the 60,000
Yes, ma'am.
annual lease?
Mhm.
Okay, on page 5.
With respect to some capital expenditures, included with the packet for capital expenditures, we currently have a line item for radio equipment expense, which is on page 3. It is ending in 7402. We have 4 vehicles, including my issued vehicle, that do not have radios in the vehicles. This presents a problem when using what we call portable radios, because we don't always have the best reception. Numerous officers, especially in Area 3, which is the commercial district over towards Walmart, numerous officers report issues of getting out on the radios. So having each vehicle equipped with a radio helps us keep in contact with our officers. Next is probably our most pressing need, and this is going to be our tough books. We, in working with the finance director and the city manager, we started looking at outside the box ways to address the need, which you all have seen previous quotes for, which is a heavy lift. Panasonic does a tough book as a service program, which takes it from a capital expenditure to operating costs. So we were able to get a quote for better laptops and actually more equipment for the laptops for about the same cost over a 5-year period. There is a small increase in cost over the 5 years compared to buying it outright. However, it's probably one of the better options I've seen, and so that is the first of the capital expenditures. Currently, we have several officers whose computers are either not operational or continuously need to be restarted, or they have to come to the office to complete reports. And mobile computing is a critical need for us, especially for officers on patrol and the investigators who may be responding to crime scenes for investigations. There is a second quote for a lease option in there through another company, and both are there for your review, and so you can compare the two. Are there any questions on the tough books?
between the two options, which one would you consider the best?
I would consider the one from Panasonic, Toughbook as a service. Currently, the docking stations that we utilize are one size fits all. So, not to mention they're much older. So a lot of officers have taken to creative ways of securing the laptops to the docking stations. With the Toughbook as a service, the one that has Panasonic at the top, they are giving us the actual vehicle docking cradle, which locks and secures, so the laptop can't be stolen out of the car if it was ever broke into. To purchase those cradles is about $1,200 each, and they're giving them to us over the life of the 5 years for about, if my math is correct, somewhere about $700. The other quote does not have those docking stations in it at all. It has desktop docking stations, which the Panasonic quote does as well. So we asked for 13 desktop docking stations, so in case officers have to come in, they bring their laptop, they're able to plug into a setup in the office and continue their work from the car.
And just so people can understand, the current computers they have are computers like you'd buy at Walmart, correct?
Yes, when those computers were purchased, I believe they were purchased from Staples, and they're more akin to what you would give a high school student to go to school. They're not designed to be in a vehicle
In the heat,
in
the
the heat,
cold.
extreme heats, extreme colds, and the vibrations of the vehicle. And so over time, what we've seen is they begin to break down.
And I do believe the Toughbook is used in the military also.
It is. There are versions of there's fully rugged, there's semi-rugged. The ones we're looking at are semi-rugged, which are more akin to law enforcement. Full rugged would be more akin to military applications. The version that we got on the Toughbook as a service would allow us to. It addresses a myriad of needs, especially moving forward as technology continues to grow. These laptops will be able to be in service for the next 5 to 7 years. But with this particular leasing option at 5 years, if we continue with the program, they will turn over the laptops into the newest, latest, and greatest.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
I have just a,
Oh,
so
one
my,
more,
my,
okay.
I was just I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to address each. We have a next. There's a quote for Eltron Corporation. This is a forensic digital collection kit. Essentially, we have one officer dedicated to processing crime scenes when it's a major crime. What we see in the courtrooms is that presentations are becoming more and more advanced, especially when it deals to evidence. So there's a quote from the Eltron Corporation for a camera system with the back-end software. And this camera system, how it works is you place it in one location in the crime scene, it does a 360. You move it, it does another 360, and then you move it, it does another 360, and it provides a full 3D rendering of the crime scene and on the back end, measurements can be added, so it lends itself to the the best practices of where the higher end agencies, I would say, are operating, and this would definitely cut down on time documenting crime scenes.
Would you also say that, basically you said 360, it takes the whole area and zooms it in, so no matter where you're at, it picks it all up around you. So it would also, would it decrease, in your opinion, decrease user error? Without, that means missing things?
Yeah, so obviously we're human. once you leave a crime scene, you can't go back. I mean, you can go back, but you lose the chain of custody on it. When photographing a scene, there's a number of things that could be going on that could cause somebody to miss something. It does happen. It usually doesn't, but who's to say, with one person, documenting a crime scene, there's that chance compared to, larger agencies where they work in 2-3-man teams. So this does give us essentially a second bite at the apple when we do these 3D scans. I've personally seen them. One of my former agencies had a version of this from another company, and the prosecutors, once they get it, they expect it all the time, because it just it provides that much more information with respect to the crime scene. And I've got two more things that I'm just going to hit really quickly. We are in the process of reconstituting our special response team. For an organization our size, and since my time being here, we have had officers engaging in serving high-risk warrants for narcotics investigations or wanted individuals, and it's hard to get that done and get it done safely when we don't have the personnel who have the time training together in that capacity. Most people are used to hearing the term a SWAT team. There's a myriad of acronyms, but more importantly, we are seeing an uptick in, as the summer comes, activities getting more and more prevalent, and the officers are doing their best. But the time is coming for us to have in place the people we need to have in place to address certain situations. And for your consideration in the budget, there is a request for funding for rifles for the special response team. And then lastly, we have our criminal investigations division has been utilizing a secondary camera system in addition to Flock. We do own, I think, a couple of their cameras, and so these cameras are mobile, and we have been able to deploy them in locations where thefts have been occurring, situations where there's a lot of activity that we may need to keep an eye on. We can use them for special events. And so the last quote is from Champion Systems, which is for to acquire another one of those cameras, which has served us well in our criminal investigations and our narcotics unit in building cases. So, with that, subject to any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from any of the other council?
Thank you.
We appreciate you all sharing your needs and some wants. We definitely would like to do what we can. We want to make sure that the employees have the equipment that they need to be safe and to do their jobs properly. And we will work with what we have. But thank you for your presentations. Any other comments? Oh, okay, finance. Oh my, we can't function without that one, right?
Mine's not exciting. Really, the only increase that I have is in Department 4150, And that's our general liability insurance, an increase in that, and then in our, legal settlement line, just including a little extra funding for that, so, and that's basically it.
Any questions for Ms. Carmen? She made hers really brief and sweet, didn't she? If there are no questions, we thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to reiterate, a lot of information is before you and in your packets that, rather than going line by line, it hasn't been shared, but it's a lot of information for you to digest and for us to go make the magic happen and see what we can afford to do this year and carry it forward and make the best use of our taxpayers' funds. I fully expected this work session to take 3 hours, which is why we tried to start early. And so hitting the highlights has gotten us through this very quickly, I guess you can say. At our next meeting, we intend to have first pass at balanced budget prepared before you, and we'll see where we go from there. And right now, as far as our revenue outlooks, I think most things are going to be relatively flat. Not any substantial increases in things, but hopefully no substantial decreases. It's the revenue projection memo that we received from the league does require some analysis of looking at prior datas and trying to anticipate what our local situation would resolve in that. And so looking for some stability and to make, like we said, make the best use of funds to impact the greatest amount of people within our community. And so we do so, and the time that it takes to look through and make these quotes is to come up with these needs and the cost. It is very time consuming, and working with vendors to get that information does require a level of effort, and we're grateful for that. And so we know that things will come and go, and we'll address as we can, but just like for you to address any questions that you have with me and bring your needs, and we'll do our best to respond and make something happen here. So.
Okay. If no one else has anything, we thank you again. I don't think we need a motion to adjourn. Thank you.